Can we hear me now? Yeah? Okay, there we go. But it's not the right profile, so one sec. There, okay. Now we're talking. Oh, sorry about that. One sec. I just gotta hit record here and pretend like none of that ever happened. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's another Technical Alpha podcast. Glad you could join us today. Bit of an awkward start there. My microphone setup didn't feel like working, apparently. That was unfortunate. I got another great show lined up for you today, of course, as always. Some of you definitely interested in perhaps hearing Mr. Black's opinions on the latest StarCraft patch that just dropped here, I think yesterday, so we were going to be definitely covering that. But before we get started, of course, the most important question of the week just in time. Mr. Black, how was your week?
It was another week. It was all right. Nobody was sick this week, so that's, that's good. I mean,
Huge.
That's half the battle right there.
Huge.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I've just been streaming, doing some renos at a property, and that's pretty much it. Getting ready for Halloween, I guess, next week. And that's that.
True. This is, even though she's been in the country since, 2018, M has never carved a pumpkin. And so we're carving a pumpkin this year. We got a couple of pumpkins out front. I took her, to the store. She got to pick out the pumpkin that she wanted. And so we'll be carving pumpkins. So if we still have all fingers in the next couple of days, I'll let you know. And we would have survived it. We don't have any of those fancy, pumpkin carving specific fucking like kit things that you can get these days.
Just a knife.
Old school. Just a knife that's way too big for what you should be using it for and probably dangerous. But hey, I did it when I was a kid and I still got my hands. So it's okay. So yeah, we stopped in with that and other than that, just been continuing having a good time with Skyrim. I'm starting to get like attention now in the modding community. I've had people rolling through that are well-known names, and Skyrim's been very weird. Like well-known mod creators have started to roll through, and people are starting to ask what mod list I'm using, and I get to say it's mine. It's all mine. Which is a weird thing to get asked, because at first the game just looked like cheeks, but it's looking really good now. It's playing well, and I can't wait to kind of get I can't wait to get to the well, it's not going to be exciting to watch, and it'll probably be a pain in the ass to do. But the point that we're getting up to now is balancing combat. So Skyrim modding has gotten so friggin' deep. I mean, you get to the point where you're literally balancing combat, like enemy health, magicka, stamina, their attack tendencies. So when they're in groups, how do they behave? Things like that, and their resistances. Everything is all up for grabs, and there's a number of mods that touch on those things. And so the idea is you're typically grabbing the mods that you're interested in maybe using, but then you have to patch them together for let's say one mod, you're like, I like the base health that this mod uses, but I want the fucking resistances that this one uses, and you have to start patching it together to make up for the combat experience that you're trying to accomplish. And so I kind of look forward to that. It's already in a decent place right now, but probably the biggest change that I made from a gameplay perspective in this mod list is that, and it's not uncommon, but it's definitely something that if you've played Skyrim or whatnot before, it becomes very jarring, is I de-leveled the whole thing. And by that I mean, enemies are not scaled to the player. And so at level 1, you could go wandering off into the deep end, into what would typically be considered a late game zone, and there are late game enemies there that are level 40, level 50. They've got end game gear. You walk in there, you get your cheeks clapped, and there's no just hacking and slashing your way through it. You could pull it off if you're really good, like anything. Kind of like the idea is like more modern action games, like you can technically do it. Like people beat Dark Souls without getting hit once, like it's possible, but most people will be deterred by going into an area and getting their shit kicked and then come back later. So that's probably one of the biggest things, because like any Elder Scrolls game up to this point, for the most part, with the exception of maybe Morrowind, so Oblivion and Skyrim, both of them scaled with the player. So that's removed. So anyway, I've been having a fun time with that, and otherwise, that's been about it. We had our mayoral elections here in Halifax. They wrapped up. The one person I hope was not going to be mayor became mayor, so that was a good, solid start to my election cycle. But I guess, you know, it is what it is. It was almost guaranteed to go that way just because nobody knew who anyone was, and the guy who won was the guy who sent out fucking leaflets in the mail every goddamn week for like 7 years. It was driving me insane. Every time I went to go collect my mail, Andy fucking Fillmore's face on some stupid cardboard piece of paper. I pull out of my freaking thing. It's like, bills. Hi, I'm Andy Fillmore. I'm representing you in Ottawa. And like, oh, fuck. So I'm pretty sure he just won based on that alone.
Good old Andy, man. Good old Andy.
I wonder if he's aware that his name is used as like a like a meme on the internet.
Like a meme.
Yeah.
What an Andy, bro. What a fucking Andy. And he ain't a Chad, I'll tell you that. He's definitely not a Chad. He's definitely an Andy.
Oh, he's such an Andy. He went up to Ottawa for just enough time to get his pension and came back, hasn't set foot in this city for more than 5 minutes in 8 years, and gets the mayoral position. I almost vomited.
Wild, bro. It's wild.
Yeah, it was pretty much
government.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Sometimes it really is just like, who have people heard of? And that's it.
Of course.
And with this, there were 16 people running, and only 3 of them were even remotely recognizable. And so, you know, it was only ever going to be one of the 3. But even then, such a chance. I feel like any position that's like the mayor level or higher, there should be a lot more coverage sooner. It's not, you know, the mayor of a city is not obviously a premier or of a whole province or the fucking some shit like that in terms of level of control. But the bigger the city, the more important the role of a mayor is. And when it comes to trying to get stuff done between the city and the province, a good mayor makes a big difference. And Halifax is currently in arguably its most important transitional phase from like how the city is currently in. Like, it's rough because it's growing at 1,000 miles an hour, and we're not ready.
Cannot handle. No, we're just.
And so we need a mayor that's gonna like fight tooth and nail to make sure that things happen as fast as they can. And we currently, like, Andy, for those who don't know, Andy the Andy is one of the few people running that you would know exactly their politics. Like, he is literally part of the Liberal Party, and so he's a Liberal mayor with a conservative premier and a soon-to-be conservative prime minister, which means like how this man is he's going to have to work hard for it, because it's not going to come fucking easy. You're basically on the other side of the aisle from the provincial and federal government. So I have no idea what that means for Halifax, but shit. I'm scared to say it, but can it get worse? Can it get worse? I guess that's the question. Maybe it just doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters anymore, Adam.
But hey, basis points. They went down. So
thank God.
Shout outs to some basis points coming back down.
Yeah, hey man, at least that mortgage, those variable mortgages out there are going to get some relief.
I know. I feel it.
And there'll be another one in December. There'll be another one next month. I think it'll be 0.25 next month.
I mean, they're talking about like going down heavy before next summer, like going down another 0.75 between now and next summer.
I think it'll be, it's going to be, I think it'll be another 0.25 here. And then in the next year, I think it's going to go down a whole basis point throughout the year. Like,
and then it's time to
we're
lock
fucked.
in. Just wait for it.
We
Wait
Oh yeah,
for it.
dude. And
End of next year.
I've timed my
Press the
variables
lock
like
button.
fucking like an absolute cream. I have two. I actually have 4, 5. I have 6 properties that are all renewing in between July and October of 2025. And you can also you can basically lock in 6 months before your maturity date. So once this gets down to a certain thing, bro, I'm locking in, and it should just be.
But okay, so here's my question
cream.
for you. Just do you think it's the time to lock in, or do you?
No, I think it's variable right now. So
Not right now. No, not right now. Like, so next year, because the idea I'm thinking of is that as a millennial that's gotten fisted several times by first ever global economy, calamities, it seems like it's on a 10-year fucking cycle. Somewhere between 8 and 10 years every time the economy gets fucking fisted. And so if you lock in next year, just as it's just first hit bottom, like they get to the last, they're like, no more, not dropping anymore. This is it. We lock in here. It feels like you come out the other side and you're gamba on, is there another global fucking calamity literally just as you're fucking leaving?
Yeah.
Or do you wait an extra year or so and then lock in after so that maybe you can avoid, because like, as you would have known, people came out of, people have come out of it in the middle of the pandemic, or just on the other side of it, I should say, where the interest had spiked and they had locked in like, let's say 2018. And they came out 2023, interest was through the fucking roof, and they were like,
Yep.
And so what do you think about that? How do you try to play that field?
Well, I play it's situational. So there's several. So for the people that don't know, here in Canada, you cannot do 30-year fix like you can in the US. I have no idea what it's like in the UK, stuff like that. But the two biggest markets that I know of, like very well, is the US market, which I have property in the US, which is under a 30-year fixed with bless.
The dream.
And then here in Canada. Here in Canada, you can do variable rate mortgages or you can do fixed rate mortgages. Same what you can in the States. The problem is unlike in the States, when you lock in for 30 years, here in Canada, the max that you can lock in on a residential is 5 years. So the vast majority of Canadians will do a 5-year fixed rate mortgage. That means for the 5 years, your rate is fixed. After the 5 years, you are forced to renegotiate with the bank and basically get a new mortgage. Now, the good news is you don't have to reapply for a mortgage. You're automatically basically accepted to continue with the mortgage. It's just a matter of where you're going to go, especially if you stay with the bank. If you try and move to a different bank, they're going to do some underwriting and stuff like that. But for the most part, if you're just going to say you're with a TD Bank and you have a mortgage and you renew on your 5th year, they're going to automatically approve you. Now, what Adam is saying here is basically like, okay, well, if things are at a low or soon to be at a new low of what, we're never going back to below 2%. I don't even think we're going to see it in my lifetime unless something catastrophic happens. But say, for example, just a few months ago, we were at like 6.5 or 6.75% or something crazy, right? Now we've come all the way down. I think we've come down 1.25% over the last 4 rate cuts
in that neck of the woods.
Yeah, so it was 0.75 and then in 0.5. So yeah, the thing is though is, anyway, before I get ahead of myself, essentially what Adam is asking is, should I lock in a rate, like wait an extra year, because by the time my new 5-year term is done, maybe the new cycle has come and interest rates are high again, and now I'm going from, say, a 3.5% interest or a 4% interest back to a 6.25% interest, which is what Adam is alluding to. The answer is is we don't know. We actually just don't know where the market is. We don't know what the economy is going to be like. The black swan event with the pandemic happened. So, they lowered interest rates immensely to keep the economy afloat, keep people basically just keep money churning because the economy was hurting so bad. My thing is, I look at it a little bit differently because I'm not too concerned about residential mortgage. I look at it from a property standpoint and a cash flow standpoint. So I think about, okay, where are rents projected to be in, a 2-year period, a 3-year period, a 5-year period? Also, how am I trying to get my money out? If I invest $100,000 into, say, a $500,000 triplex or duplex, would be a duplex. You couldn't even get one for $500 now, but we'll just say a $500,000 duplex. When can I get my money out? So there are things in which I look at it differently from an investor standpoint, where it's like, okay, my interest rate is here now. The principal pay down for my tenants is going to take, X amount of years. Maybe I'm going to do some improvements on the property. I'll do a cash out refinance and I'll pull out X amount of money. Can I get all of it back on a 4-year? So then I'd probably put it on a 4 or 5-year fixed. And then that way I know within a 6-month period, you got a grace period. So if the economy starts going bad towards the end of your term, you can basically lock in a rate. But the banks aren't stupid. They also have their projections and they start pricing the market before it even happens. Even though the Fed is lowered it half a basis point, doesn't mean that the fixed interest rates have actually dropped, because those are tied to the bonds, and the banks have already priced that in. So really, the only relief that people are having right now are variable mortgages. But also, that's not a horrible thing, because right now, if I was buying a house, I'd be going on variable. I would not be doing fixed. And I would go on a short-term variable. So I would either do like a 2-year variable, kind of see where it's going in a year and a half, basically get out of that for free, and then lock into a fix, because the interest rates, in my opinion, I'm not a guru, by the way, but in my opinion, the interest rates are going to keep coming down. And even the Fed has basically said so. They're going to continue to lower rates unless something crazy happens that nobody can foresee. But at the same time, what other people may do is they may actually go for a 5-year variable, because it's going to be the cheapest option, because in 5 years, just like what Adam said, chances are the interest rates are going to tick up at some point. And so the banks are willing to give you a little bit of a lower rate now in hopes that they're going to pick up on the difference towards the end of your term. But what you can do, if you're savvy enough, or if you have the stomach for it, you can actually go into a 5-year variable, get a really low rate, and depending on the size of your mortgage, if you want to break your mortgage term, it's only 3 months of interest. So for example, if your mortgage payment is $2,000 a month, if you're lucky enough to have a mortgage payment that's only $2,000 a month, congratulations. But say it's $2,000 a month, half of that usually goes to interest and the other half goes towards principal. So essentially, to break your term, you'd be looking at a $3,000 fee. But that $3,000 fee might actually be worth doing, because if you're getting a half a basis point cheaper on the 5-year variable over the course, if you add up all of those months, the 60 months or whatever, or say even 50 months, 54 months, you might actually save more than $3,000 from that spread, right? So it's a game. It's a game. To answer your question, Adam, it just depends. It depends. And the thing is, you got to ask yourself, if the market if the interest rates go up and you're on variable, can you afford it? And if the answer is yes, and it's not going to kill you, then maybe that is the best way to go. If I was getting a mortgage right now, if I had to sign a mortgage deal right now, I'd be going variable. I'm not doing fixed. There's no way in fuck.
Because we
and
know
that's the
they're
reason
dropping
why.
it. Yeah.
Yes, and that's the reason why most of the time right now, there's a difference between the fixed and the variable, and it's significant because the banks want to get you. They want to dangle the apple like, oh, it's cheaper, right? It's the same thing that you went through. When you got a variable, oh, it's 1 point something. Oh, the banks go, dude, we've been giving out free money for fucking the last God knows. Something's gonna happen, right? and then they cash in. So, you know, the banks aren't stupid. They have the bigger buildings for a reason, right? It's because they know what they're doing. They don't lose, right? They don't lose. So, yeah, that's that in a nutshell. So, yeah, here in Canada, it's 5 years max. So, yeah, and a few years back when I was doing a bunch, because I bought a decent amount of real estate during COVID, and I was like, things are going to go bad. I'm only going to put it on a 3-year fixed, because by the time the 3-year fixed is done, I think the market's going to turn around, and all of my renewals are coming up next year. Bless. So it kind of worked. Would have
been probably almost a good bet one way or the other, because that's also the election year, and almost without fail,
they will lower the rates just because they want to say, "Oh, you see Justin Trudeau on Twitter. Oh, guys, praise me.
Oh, look at them
the
come down now.
Down. Oh, you guys,
how convenient.
You guys can afford a house out there. The problem is now inflation is at 1.6%, which is below what they wanted, and now we're in a deflationary period, which is even worse than inflation. You'd rather have a 3% inflation when their goal is 2 than have a 1.5 or a 1.6 deflation, because then it's the complete opposite. Then that's when jobs start getting losing. People aren't spending money. People aren't doing that. And that's when the economy crashes. That's when you hit a recession. And that's the reason why I thought there was a chance. When I heard 1.6%, I was like, dude, they might do a 0.75 or a full
They might
point.
go, like all the way up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they did.
They're
the 0.5.
Sticking to their guns at like pumping the brakes. Like they really should have started the 0.5 earlier. Like last time they did 0.25, probably should have been 0.5, and this time another 0.5. But they wait. They're being really, really, really overly fucking cautious with it, and they're suffering the consequences. Now they're playing catch up.
I get it. Yeah, like I understand why they are to a degree, but at the same time, it's like now we're kind of we're venturing onto the other side now, and you know things can go. Things could actually go really bad if they held high interest rates for a few months too long, and it's been fucking crippling the economy. I
sympathize to a degree, because you know the problem when you're coming in, or you're trying to come out of a situation like that, when you're trying to beat inflation down, and you know there's a whole problem with their selected fucking percentage to begin with that they target, as far as I'm concerned. But when that happens, when you relieve when you take the pressure off too quick, people can often spike the fucking economy immediately out of the gate because they get too much money too quick. So like I sympathize with them trying to walk the line between how much can we really ease off of this now, when we know we're trying to ease off this much between now and next year. How, like, what's the ramp look like? And if we go too quick and shit, and even in an election year, then the question is also like, depending on who wins, how does the economy fucking respond to whoever wins and loses the fucking. So it's a fucking nightmare, I'm sure, to try to like math out exactly how to pull yourself out of this situation. But I just wish that there are certain economic forces that 2% basis, like inflation, that they chose was never meant to include in terms of inflation. And the like, for example, the carbon tax specifically is accounting for 1/2 to up to a full point and a half more
of inflation
just on its own. And so when you see the inflation is at like 2.5 and they're like, man, no, we got another round to go. You're like, okay, yeah, but realize that it's the carbon tax that is in place right now is making up everything else that you're trying to get to. And the housing market is flattened because there's no inventory. So you're not stopping people from buying houses. They don't exist. And you're just flattening the fucking economy. I wish they ignored that. I feel like sometimes they get like blinders on for that 2.0, and they're like, gotta be. And then they don't fucking think about everything else that's kind of affecting it. But I'm also just sitting in my home here in the basement talking about what will eventually be video games while they're sitting over there, you know, doing national economic control. So what the fuck do I know? I'm just here.
True. Yeah.
Speaking of here, not a lot of video game news this week, Mr. Black. We got a couple of things. Star Citizen's our favorite topic. We didn't talk about Star Citizen for a hot minute. but it's back in the news. Star Citizen had Citizen Con this week, where they showed off a bunch of gameplay, about an hour of it. And perhaps most importantly, they released a new trailer that had a release window. I'm saying window because it's not a date. It's just a year of 2026. So it's not even coming to Squadron 42. Still ain't coming out next year. Squadron 42 is landing in some nebulous month and day of 2026. Reports peg, and this is interesting side information here. So there was a bit of an expose of sorts written up about a few days before CitizenCon hit, which is obviously well timed for getting people's attention. But there was a bunch of information in this, including there were reports. So this person spoke with, I think, was it Tom Henderson that did this? I can't remember who did it now. But they spoke with I think they said around a dozen people that were inside the company or had just recently left, a mixture, and they got some info on how the development's going. So reports peg the developers are spending around $100 million a year right now developing the game is the current cost of production, which means that if you do the math real quick, their current total listed funds of $732 million, which is their most recent number, by the way, is probably getting a bit thin. It's probably not a lot left of that $732 million, which is hard to comprehend. That you could manage to spend $732 million on a game and have it still not launched yet after 12 years, but that's where we're at right now. Despite the 2026 release window, the team has been hard in the crunch for a while now, as internal reports seem to indicate. It's only just reached feature complete status, which is in contrast to what the developer announced last year. So the developer said last year it was feature complete. It's feature complete now. They hadn't actually finished it to that point until earlier this year. Reportedly, the idea is to help bridge the gap for the multiplayer portion, because as we know, Star Citizen is really Squadron 42, the single-player campaign, and then the one that all the potatoes is the big multiplayer end game, destroy all other video games, monolithic fucking thing that they've been building. In order to help prop that up, because obviously money is starting to dry up. In fact, they laid off about 150 people relatively quietly here not too long ago for that very reason. They're trying to bridge the gap with Squadron 42. So they have to make this money last between now and 2026, where presumably Squadron 42 will be able to be released, and presumably it will make a lot of money. If it doesn't, I don't know what their options are, but that's the plan. And perhaps more interestingly, on top of that, is that there were reports from inside the company that in combination with Squadron 42 backing the multiplayer fund, they're also hoping to have more than one game in the Squadron 42 series, which would tell you that there may be a lot more years before the multiplayer side launches. And then further than that, out of left field, there was also apparently a medieval fantasy game pitched internally to also sell to try to raise funds to try and prop up the multiplayer portion of Star Citizen. So it's a bit of a fucking 5-alarm fire over there if anyone hadn't already figured it out, with the fact that they just continuously always say that they're 2 or 3 years away every time they announce something. But now it seems they're really up against it, because the money is in fact running out. You can only burn up so much money so quickly. And they just actually moved to a new office in the UK, actually, and they spent a whole bunch of their money custom decorating this office to look like the inside of a starship. Like the whole office looks like the inside of a starship.
Sure it does.
Why?
I can't imagine what the CEO's house looks like.
Bruh. It probably is a spaceship at this point.
Yeah, he's probably in space.
He's
in space now. Like he's just doing it for research, and he's just spending copious amounts of money.
So there you have it. There's your Star Citizen update. Another 2 years for Squadron 42, because I'm going to assume if it's 2026, it ain't going to be January.
No.
So probably 2 years on Squadran 42 at best, and God knows how long for the multiplayer portion to come through. And I mean, listen, like always, it's a really impressive tech demo. It looks really pretty. It crashes every time they show it off publicly live, but it looks really pretty, and that's about all I can say about it. Is it looks pretty. It probably plays pretty fucking dope with like a full HOTAS setup and all that shit. I bet you it's great, but it's still basically an elaborate tech demo, and I can't imagine how people are still. I mean, you go to the comment section for anything that's talking about this shit, and there is still the amount of copium is.
Oh, bruh.
I've never seen this level of copium before. It has to be cult-like levels of copium. It's bad. It's bad. Imagine how much cope you have to have when you backed a game 12 years ago and they're almost $750 million deep, and the game is still 2 to 3 years away
before it comes out with no multiplayer in sight. But it's okay. They'll release another $20,000 ship for you to buy.
Some of these people, Jeff, will have had a child, and that child will have graduated high school before this game comes out.
That's crazy to think of. That's actually kind of insane.
Graduation gift. Squadran 42, son. It finally came out just in time for your graduation.
Son, I remember the day you were born. I had just did my first pledge on Star Citizen, and here you are, 47 years old with 6 kids, and I'm on my deathbed, and it's finally coming out. It's great. It's great.
Oh shit, that's crazy. It's true though. Literally, by the time this is out, it'll damn near be long enough for people to have had a child.
That's wild.
And have them graduate high school.
Bro, it's gonna go through 2 console cycles. It's gonna go through 2 console cycles, man. Like, what?
And those aren't the short ones anymore. These are the long console cycles.
These are like 7, 8, 9 years long.
Yeah.
You're going through 2 of them.
Damn.
That bitch started in Xbox 360. Jesus Christ.
We were still
PS3
playing Halo
back in the day. It's like fucking PS3 was still releasing games, man. That's nuts.
Absolutely freaking crazy. But there you go. Next up, Mr. Black, the StarCraft 2 community has not been this banded together and active since Lag TV was still pulling down hundreds of thousands of views of video. Mr. Black, shit has been on fire for the last 48 hours.
I wish we still were today. Oh, man, I wish we did.
My God, don't I also. A new patch was released this week from the Balance Council, and opinions on it have been strong to say the least, which means it could either be the worst, but also it could be the best patch of all time. Hard to guess, really. So I thought, hey, lots of people were coming into my stream and saying, oh man, I can't wait to hear your guys' opinion on this StarCraft patch, as if we are the arbiters of anything to do with StarCraft patches. But you know what? We're going to fucking do it, because there's no other news this week, so we're going to sit down, have a chin wag about the patch notes for StarCraft 2.
Wow.
Have you looked over these already, Mr. Black?
I briefly went over them when the internet was on fire back in was it 3 days ago?
2 days ago at most, yeah.
Yeah. I kind of briefly went over them. I have not played the patch at all. That'll change today, but outside of that, yeah, it looks like a hot steaming pile of ass. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
You know what? So when I was reading these patch notes earlier today, I dropped off Em at work. I got my food on the way home and parked the car to have my coffee. Pulled the phone up, pulled the patch notes up, started reading. I was kind of with them in like the top half of this fucking list of patch notes. I'm reading. We're gonna go over them. I was like, wow, some of this is actually like sounds like an interesting and likely probable way to deal with some of the issues that are currently going on. Like, okay, I see you, I see where it's going. And then when you get to the bottom, like third, and the tires fall off, the dumpster is lit on fire, there's people crying and screaming, just a blubbery mess. It's a complete shit show. People are literally just shitting their pants in public. It's terrible. And so shall we go over exactly why it is that way? So
Go for it.
I will read what their goals are. So because they said what their goals were with this patch. So the first goal is to nerf defensive and camping playstyles for all races, both related to early and late game on higher levels of play. We will target specific units, buildings, and abilities suited for camping to promote more active gameplay across all stages of the game. That's a, everyone wants to hear that. Now, how you go about doing that is a little bit more difficult, but that's a really nice thing to hear. Nobody likes turtling without being able to be punished in some way. The second goal is to continue reshaping Protoss tools for high-level gameplay. That sentence is the nice way of saying Protoss hasn't won a single championship in the last fucking decade. It's been nothing but Zerg, and now we feel bad, so maybe we'll balance it for the high end. We believe there is still a major gap between how Protoss race plays and feels on the highest level of play and the levels below. Current set of changes aims to make Protoss race slightly more efficient with the strongest and smartest execution, while helping Terran and Zerg players against Protoss on lower levels. That was kind of like my first red flag. And it was a red flag for me, maybe it's the same reason for you, because they mentioned trying to balance the high end and the low end at the same time. I'm not 100% convinced that's possible. I think that at best you can do a mediocre job of balancing for both ends of the scale, but you never fully satisfy one or the other. You kind of have to almost pick a lane.
Yep.
And so they have to decide, is it more important that more Protoss players win championships, or is it more important that whoever's playing on the ladder doesn't, pull their hair out and quit the game at some random time? But we'll see how they went about that. The third goal would be to provide strong playstyle alternatives for various matchups. Zergs might now be better equipped to use ground-based armies against mass air strategies, and some of the Terran mech units are now more efficient in harassment or certain straight-up fight scenarios. Lastly, we would like to continue adding overall gameplay and quality of life improvements viable across all levels of play. Then they go on to thank everyone for screaming at them and calling them assholes for long periods of time, and then they list the changes. So first up, we got Protoss, Mr. Black. So we're starting in your neck of the woods right off the rip. I was real interested in what they were going to do with Protoss, because on the high end, Protoss has been getting clapped for a long, long time. First up, shield battery overcharge ability has been removed entirely. And if you read that first line without any other context, your first thought is, what? But with some context, it's still crazy, but it at least makes more sense than just reading the first line. New ability is added now, Energy Overcharge. Energy Overcharge costs 50 energy and recharges 100 energy of the targeted allied unit or structure with a maximum range of 8. So that's within range 8 of any given nexus, shield battery itself. So, this removes the automation of shield batteries to some degree. Which means you're more micro-intensive, rewards people for paying attention. Kind of like, I guess, maybe their idea with this was they were trying to be like, all right, well, Zerg with Queens, they have to transfuse. So why don't we make Protoss click a button to accomplish a similar goal? Maybe that was where they were trying to take this. 8 range is substantial. That's almost the max range of the longest range units in the game. And so that's nothing to sneeze at. I'll read the developer comments for this change, and then I'll let Mr. Black share his thoughts on this. While being one of the most important tools in the Protoss defenses, shield battery overcharge is also one of the most frustrating abilities to play against, and it's overall more efficient at the lower levels of play, unlike other defensive techniques like transfuse or mass repair. Instead of this ability, there is a new tool which can help empower Protoss support units like Sentries, Oracles, and or High Templar during defense. The ability can still be used to restore shield battery energy, but it is expected to perform much weaker in this scenario than shield battery overcharge.
And
so
you know what they do?
What are your thoughts?
And they have the nerve to then put a GIF underneath that
To show
of Protoss. Yeah, where they're showing a Zerg at a ramp trying to get up, but it's force fielded. And by the way, this Protoss is dying, by the way. Like, this game is over, so Protoss is already dead. So that's probably not a good thing to show when you're making a very clear, massive nerf. But on top of that, what it does is it shows that the sentries are all out of energy. And, well, they're currently being killed as well, but they're all out of energy. And just as the force field is about to dissipate, they use the overcharge to give the sentry more energy. And then the sentry throws down another force field, buying a little bit more time. But at the same time, you see that same Zerg dropping down a hot fire mixtape with a Ravager on a cannon that is unpowered. So the cannon isn't even shooting, but instead they could, in theory, just use the hot fire mixtape to destroy the force field in the first place. This is fundamentally the biggest nerf to Protoss I have ever seen in the history of StarCraft 2. Legacy of the Void and the way that this game has gone, if you do not have overcharge, there are so many types of builds that both Terran, Zerg, and or Protoss can use to instantly win. There are timings in which you are fucked. Now, I haven't played this, so I don't know for sure what the hell is the massive... The thing is they're trying to appease, just what Adam said, both beginner players and the elite players. The thing is, at this stage in the game, with minimal support, they ought to appease the ones that are grinding out their game and keeping the player pool alive. Now, are they doing this because all this shit is going on Xbox Game Pass and they're expecting a large amount of new players to come in, and if they pick Protoss, they're just going to get dummied? I don't think so. Protoss isn't even that great of a race. It has universally been known to be the weakest race out of all three for the entire time that StarCraft 2 has been out, outside of maybe one patch. Period. And then you've got these fucking Terran and Zerg players screaming from the mountaintops telling you that you're brain dead if you play Protoss and it's an easy race. Yet if you look at virtually all of the metrics, it shows you on any competitive level, and I'm not talking about the top 15 players in the world here. I'm talking like the top 500, top 1,000. Protoss gets the shit into the stick almost every time in every patch. So once I read overcharge was gone, I was like, okay, that's gone. What other buff are we getting here? So I want you to keep going, Adam. We'll see what buffs.
Yeah.
And I'm a Protoss player. I am biased, and I understand this. But my God, even the biggest Protoss haters out there are like, dude, what?
So, for me, I'll give my opinion as somebody who would be on the shit, the shit end of this whole thing. Because if I were to pick up the game and play it right now, I'd be basically as close to greenhorn as you could get, despite staring at it for a decade. I like the idea. I just don't know if I like the execution. like I said before, I think that in their minds, to some degree, they were trying to look at this the way that, from a defensive point, similar to the Zergs, where it's a transfuse situation. So this would be like the Protoss version of transfusion. So I like that idea. I just don't know if I don't think I like this version of the execution of that idea. I would have almost been okay if they had left shield batteries as they were, but removed automatically being able to recharge everything and having the battery recharge a chunk at a time and have the player have to choose what's getting a recharge. Like Shield's batteries back in Brood War. You had to click on the fucking thing, and that gives you a similar idea. You know, the difference being is that, of course, you would want to, when you're doing that, have an extended range to help, ease that off. That I would be probably better off or be more happier with than this. Now, they mentioned being able to charge other units as well that require mana, and that's why they showed this GIF with the sentries. But I don't think there's any universe in which any of the current types of early game attacks that this kind of a situation would happen, that this is beneficial in any way, shape, or form. And ironically, at the point in the game in which they are showing it here, shield batteries, you need to have, like, I mean, even if you had more units in this instance, you'd need to have like 3 or 4 shield batteries to hold a ramp like that with a reasonable amount of units. It's just kind of how it goes. So yeah, I would rather them have maintained everything, all else being equal, and just changing it to, selecting your shield batteries and using them.
The thing is they don't want as much turtling, right? But the thing is Protoss is not a turtle race.
Yeah.
It just isn't. Like, How many?
It's never been a turtle race.
Have you ever heard a commentator just say, "Oh, here we go, turtling toss"?
Yeah, never happens.
No, Zerg can turtle via lurkers, via spine spores, queens with transfuse, just creep spread, kind of just keep going. Turtle,
it's too
turtle,
expensive.
get more,
it's too expensive for a Protoss to turtle because they rely on technology or tech tree more than the other races to sustain into the mid game.
Now, what Protoss does is there is a small window in which they rely on the shield batteries for a quote-unquote turtle, but it's not a turtle, it's a hold because of the certain timing attacks. If you don't, even in PvP, you'd get a 3-gate robo push, and as long as you got the shield battery up in time, and you were good enough with micro, you could hold this. Now that doesn't exist, I can't imagine what PvP looks like right now. I actually don't. I'm curious. My PvP win rate will probably go up, but when it comes to Terran turtles. Zerg can turtle. Protoss does not turtle. Now, the one benefit I see to this, and what would have actually been a buff, is to allow this to still happen, but still allow your shield battery to do what they do so you can pick and choose. Because I think that this thing can help you in the late game, because you don't rely on shield batteries in the late game. You just don't. You rely on shield batteries in the early game, which were abusive in terms of like doing proxy void rays against Terran, and it took much more skill to stop than it was to do. This I can admit. But you weren't really using an overcharge at the time. You were just using your shield batteries. One thing that I can see this being a help to is against ghosts, and which, by the way, didn't get nerfed, which is a fucking meme. That, don't even get me started on that. It's even worse than that. Yeah, that is insanity. Whoever is on the council for this, they should be fired immediately. That's nuts. But the only thing that I think this helps with is when your brain dead ghosts just spam EMP and fucking destroy all of your shields on all of your units instantaneously with huge AoE effect. You can use your shield battery to regenerate a Templar to then do a storm. I can see that working. And that still requires APM, that still requires focus, and that also requires a Terran to not then realize that this is now happening. Because what Terrans normally do, they hotkey a bunch of ghosts, they spam click, your whole army gone, half your shields are gone, so half your health is basically evaporated instantly. And then what they're going to do is they're going to wait. They're going to wait for you to do that, and they're going to keep a couple of ghosts, and they're going to fucking do it again. This is what's going to happen. So, horrible. This is horrible. Horrible.
Next up, the Colossus, the giraffe. The shield and HP are changed from 150 to 150 200 to 100 250. And I would hazard a guess that this is one of the few ways that in an indirect manner they are trying to skirt ghosts. This is about the only thing I could think of when I saw this. They're giving less shields more health, so the shields are not as impactful if they are deleted. It gives them more survivability when a Terran does just pepper the whole fucking field with an EMP, giving them 50 more base health instead of the shields might actually help with that. Developer comment, with no battery overcharge, having more shields is no longer crucial for key Protoss units like the Colossus. Instead, having more health will be helpful against EMP in Protoss versus Terran matchups, and will also be more rewarding for armor upgrade investments instead of shield investments. I feel like that's fine and had to happen for the points that they made. It is one of the few ways that aids against EMPs. And it's true that if you are going to nerf the shield battery so hard, shields aren't as important as well. But that part I don't think actually means anything. I think the most important part of that change is in fact just survivability after getting EMP'd. Then we have Tempests. This is a really interesting one because Tempests, as we've discussed on Lag TV in the last few weeks, have become very popular. Very common to see Protoss at all levels. We've seen people in gold straight through masters get into late game scenarios where they are heavily investing in Tempests. Supply costs for Tempest have been reduced from 5 to 4. Damage point decreased from 0.119 to 0.0857, which is a 28% reduction. Damage point is a really fucking stupid term. I had to look and see what the hell that even means. What it means is essentially the time between attacking, moving, attacking again. So stutter step. How they called that damage point? Couldn't fucking tell you. Attack range versus air has decreased from 14 to 13. Presumably to get people to not be too overpowered with this new ability to micro the stutter step on them faster. And really, air to air 13 range is still a fucking country mile, so it's not the end of the world. The developer comments, Tempests are a very important late game tool for Protoss players, but their high supply costs combined with the average damage output makes them the ultimate Protoss army weaker in in head-to-head fights. This set of changes will help high-level Protoss players fit more power into their maxed armies and have more opportunities for micro, while slightly decreasing the unit's maximum attack range to not strengthen mass Tempest armies. How are we feeling about that one, Mr. Black?
I mean, sure. I mean, it's in my opinion, this is a buff.
I would agree it's a buff.
It's a buff, even though that the range is decreased by 1. The fact you're going to be able to stutter step 28% faster because they are slow. It's like
28% is substantial, though.
You know,
That's going to make a big difference.
Now we're speeding that up. Here's the thing, man. Can you even survive to get to Tempest at this point? I don't know.
It's very true.
Like
it's going to be more challenging.
Like can like in what world? I just like I'm very very interested to see how Protoss can survive by the 7-8 minute mark against aggressive players that are really tight at timings. How do you do that? You're going to have to do it in a very specific manner, and then they're going to transition in a way that's going to cripple you. I don't know. But hey, this is a buff. This is a good Tempest buff.
Definitely a buff. Yeah. Now we're on to Immortals. Immortals are getting touched on. Mineral cost have been decreased from 275 to 250. Weapon cooldown is increased from 1.04 to 1.14, so it's roughly 10% in between attacks. So this is a weird one for me. Watching, thinking about this, 25 minerals on an immortal level unit is almost zero. It means nothing. It is what a zealot's. I don't know. A zealot's 100 minerals, right? Mm-hmm. So you're getting refunded a quarter of a zealot for 10% less attack speed on an immortal, which it's a hard nerf, which in most instances is like the meat and potatoes of your mid-game army. So that's a weird, I don't fully follow why they did that. I'd rather them have knocked 25 gas off of it.
For sure. No doubt about that.
That would make way more sense than 25. 25 minerals means nothing on a immortal. I don't know what the fuck that's about. So let's see what they say about it. The damage output from immortals seemed to be too high. Who has ever said out loud that the immortals were doing too much damage? I haven't heard or seen anyone on any platform that I follow people for StarCraft on, whether they are Terran Andes or anything. Nobody has ever said the fucking immortals. Fuck! Bro. They do too much damage.
Marauders are now gonna fucking destroy now Marauders which are weak. Same with roaches, which are weak against immortals. When they have high numbers, basically a 10% decrease in cooldown between attacks is huge. It's a massive nerf.
They say that it's they seem to be too high in Protoss versus Zerg, specifically across all levels of play. Dude, nobody's ever said that,
bro.
Ever. While Immortal's mineral cost is slightly decreased to compensate for the DPS nerf, which is a joke. It's
wow, what a huge compensation. Thank you for the 25 minerals back. Wow. That sounds like Canadian government. Yo, I got your carbon tax rebate and your bank account. Thank us.
I was gonna say it sounds like National Lampoon's Family Christmas Vacation, where Clark doesn't get a bonus that he's expecting; he gets a Jelly of the Month club instead.
Nuts.
This set of changes should help Zerg survive against various Protoss mid-game and late-game attacks.
They don't need to worry about that anymore. Shield batteries are dead. They're gonna end the game. They're gonna mass Ling Roach, and they're gonna push your shit in, bro.
That's such a weird choice. That's such a weird.
I mean, it's either that or give us the mothership core back and let us fucking overcharge the damn Nexus again.
Something. I mean, they do go down that road, as I'm sure you know. We'll see that.
Yeah, I mean,
Disruptor.
For the mothership?
Yeah, Disruptor Purification Nova radius increased from 1.375 to 1.5.
This is the biggest meme ever. I actually think this is an even bigger meme than the fucking than the shield battery. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Increased from 1.375 to 1.5. Purification Nova damage decreased from 145 plus 55 versus shields to 100 plus 100. So they're trading heavy health damage for shield damage. Now this is a weird one because it clearly only benefits Protoss versus Protoss games. Against everything else, against Zerg and Terran, this is a nerf.
You're getting
enormous nerf.
You can't even kill fucking basic units with one hit anymore. That's wild. You mean to tell me one of the most challenging units,
micro-intensive units,
exactly, to use already when you're Protoss, And you basically have to have a hotkey for every fucking unit. Sentry, you need a hotkey. Your army, you need a hotkey.
Shield
High Templar,
batteries?
you need a hotkey. Shield battery, you need a hotkey. Fucking disruptor, you need a hotkey. And you need to move you need to move the ball, everything. You mean to tell me that when I shoot off my disruptor now, I can't even fucking kill a roach or something? What? Why even make them?
It's gonna be it's gonna be very.
Bruh.
And again, it's weird. It's a little weird to me because even in high level play, I'm not seeing like spammed disruptors. They show up occasionally in really specific scenarios, but it's not like a Protoss player starts spamming disruptors like fucking constantly. So just, I don't know. I don't like, it's just weird that they took it so far. Like, I get that maybe they're trying to avoid, especially in the lower levels where somebody doesn't have the wherewithal to be able to get out of the way of the dodgeball getting fucking nuked from orbit. I get it, but like, it might have been a little aggressive to drop that shit 45 points of health. That's interesting. Their comments: disruptors might be very difficult to play against on the lower levels, but the higher, I keep saying these things. I actually never read their comments until now, so forgive me if I sound like I'm just mimicking what I read before. On the highest level, their efficiency dropped down significantly after the previous changes. This set of changes is aimed to bring back some of Disruptor's old power. What? Making avoiding any damage more challenging for the professional players, while at the same time making single disruptor hits less punishing in the worst case scenario. With the new, why are you okay? Why are you adjusting for the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario involves somebody being really good at micro with the disruptor, really good positioning to be able to get in range to make it happen, and then have the other player be punished for not paying attention, and that's all they're being punished for, because if they are paying attention, running away from a disruptor ball is not a hard thing to do. So it's weird that they're accounting for the worst case scenario.
What I think they should have done, if they want to nerf disruptors, nerf the cooldown time. Make it a little bit longer in between charges.
Yeah, so that if you fuck it up, then you gotta wait.
Because you still need before you still needed 2 hits to hit a fucking lurker, and lurkers are the most brain dead Zerg unit known to man that require 0 skill. None. And now you're gonna see them even more, that lurkers or Hydra basically have fucking blink or charge. The game's a meme, bro. It's a meme. They meme the fuck out of Protoss. It's actually, the race is dead. It's dead.
What's crazy is that all of these changes have done nothing but strengthen ZVP thus far. And they were all ZVP was already absolute fucking meme-tastic at the tournament level.
I gotta hit a lurker 3 times to blow one up with a fucking disruptor.
That's tough.
Really?
That's tough.
Really? And you can just go ahead and grab my fucking disruptors from a million miles away and suck them into a bunch of lurkers for insta-death?
So they say disruptors will no longer one-shot units like Marauders, Roaches, and Ravagers, while being more efficient against units like Marines, Ghosts, Banelings, and Hydras, as well as having more potential in certain PvP scenarios.
But Hydras can fucking blink around now. I mean, StarCraft, they created an RTS that has gone down the road of game of millimeters. It has always been, you can lose the game in T-minus 2 seconds. Why are we starting to steer away from that now? Let's be real here. Disruptors were oftentimes used not as units of aggression, outside of
Defensively.
PvP. They were defensive units or desperation units. They were the DT, the new DT, when behind disruptor. People aren't just opening up disruptors to open up disruptors. Like, you're usually in some sort of dire need, or you have lurkers out on the map and you have a few of these things to blow up the lurkers so that you can actually move. And in PvP, disruptors can be a fucking meme. Because oftentimes shit players will have all their stalkers clumped or all their units clumped, and you just bring one disruptor into the fog of war and then boom. And then they rage quit. Wow. Great job, Blizzard panel, whoever this is.
Mothership. Mineral gas and supply cost have been increased from 306 to 408. Shield and HP has increased from 250 to 350. Maximum damage increased from 6 damage to 6 separate beams that do 6 damage at 4 beams times 4, the maximum number of targets. For example, the mothership now targets up to 4 units at the same time.
How cool. Who gets motherships?
Well, okay, so neat that it will attack multiple units, but by the time you get to a mothership, how much is... how...
They're showing a mothership dancing around, killing a bunch of units that can't attack it. It's a fucking meme, bro. By the time you get a mothership, they either have mass corruptors, Vikings, fucking whatever. That shit's getting obliterated. It's getting obliterated, dude.
So it looks cool in action, but I don't think it means much. Because of how long it takes to get to a mothership, and now they've made it even though it's healthier and does more damage, adding an extra 100 minerals and gas and an extra 2 supply is, that shit's expensive. And what's funny is
I saw... buy, Adam? A Nexus or a mothership? Which one?
Yeah,
I'm taking a Nexus I'm expanding every time. 400 with 8 supply? The fuck?
The best part about all of this too is I saw somebody posted them on the PTR playing this, and they were sitting the Nexus over top of a bunch of units and in buildings. It was in the main, and the mothership refused to attack any units. It selected buildings for all 6 beams the whole time.
Oh my god, bro.
So they'd have to at least fix that before they send that bitch out, because otherwise, whoa baby. That's tough.
Whoa baby is right.
So I don't know. So like, Protoss got what you might be able to call one almost buff, and then 3 or so straight up nerfs outright.
Big nerfs. Big.
Ironically, mostly against the race that they were already the weakest against. So that's amazing. Next up, Terran changes. Bunkers, missile turrets, sensor towers. The salvage ability added for missile turret and sensor towers, also returning now 75% of their cost. Salvage process is now being canceled upon taking damage. So if you're caught in the middle of salvaging and you take damage, it dies, and or it dies or just canceled outright. I don't know. Probably just cancels it until it's no longer attacked for a period. Developer comment: this change will allow Terrans to be more efficient. If there's one thing Terrans have struggled with forever,
efficiency. Yeah,
it's efficiency. They have always struggled with efficiency.
Wow.
Terrans to be more efficient while moving from one defense point to another. Also, their weakest thing. Terrans always been horrible at defense creep. It's been their weakest point. Nobody has ever been concerned with Terran creep. ever. While at the same time increasing their overall investment in early game attacks featuring bunkers, as the salvage is now much easier to counter.
Bro, do you know how much Terran proxy cheese you're gonna deal with now? There's almost no. Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait to see all these bunker rushes and all this other shit that's gonna happen. And you're just gonna keep salvaging, and you're just gonna get your money back. You're okay, yeah, a little bit damage. Let me just get 75% of my cost back real quick.
Yikes!
Let me put up some defense, right? Shield battery. Fuck the shield battery. Let's go ahead and give Terran more ability to turtle. Let's just do that. Because, I mean, in the first paragraph, we just talked about we don't want that anymore, right? So let's just give them the ability, just throw down a couple of extra bunkers. But don't worry.
In the early game, at home.
In the early game, at home, right? So that we can stop any type of aggression. Then we'll get a 75% rebate. So now while your opponent decided to rush, now they are behind tech-wise. You've managed to defend because you can still repair these things, right? So, you know, if you couldn't repair them, I'd be like, okay, you can't repair them now, that's fine. This makes sense. But you can still repair them, then get 75% back and just keep going about your business. Wow. Okay.
Planetary Fortress armor decreased from 3 to 2, so celebrate. Back to the sensor tower, mineral and gas cost decreased from 125 to 100 to 150. So not only are they, getting the 75% salvage back, which at least this claws back the amount of money they get, it still makes it easier and cheaper for them to do it whenever they want up front. Radar range decreased from 27 to 22. That's a 34% area size reduction. Okay, let's see what they say about this. The combination of planetary fortresses and sensory towers is a very powerful camping tool in various late-game scenarios. This set of changes makes planetary fortresses slightly weaker against basic army units like Zerglings, Marines, and Zealots, making sensor towers much less efficient in covering the whole map. However, sensor towers might now be useful in earlier stages of the game, considering their major reduced cost and adding salvage ability.
How so?
How?
Dude, sensor towers is one of the biggest fails in the entire Terran arsenal. What an underutilized piece of technology. Hot ass. Terran always got a bajillion fucking scans going anyway. I rarely see a sensor tower. You know when you see sensor towers? You see sensor towers when you've already lost the game. When they're on like their 5th base and there's planetaries up, then they just start throwing sensors just to see where you're going to try and drop or where you're trying to move. That's the only time you ever use them. You never see sensor towers in the early game, ever. They're a waste of minerals. You could make these things 50-50, and they ain't probably putting them bitches up. And if they are, they're doing it on the sides of maps. And if you find it and you kill it, great. It just buys them time and they see what's coming. That's about it. That's it.
Question, because this is, despite how much I've watched, we see sensor towers so rarely, I actually don't remember. SCVs are required to build them, yes?
Yes.
Okay, here's an idea. Allow them to use command center energy to drop them orbitally.
I'm not against that. I think
because
you need to have vision of the area. You shouldn't be able to just throw them anywhere, but you need to be able to have vision.
Yep.
That makes sense.
And now at least you can put them further out on the map earlier in the game, likely, without having SCVs running all over the place. It might mean that if you're controlling any other tower in the area that you're allowed to, and honestly, yeah, vision and drop it orbitally. I would say that would be my idea to make them at least viable. in a more in a better sense.
I don't care about this. This is clearly a
It
buff,
doesn't mean
but
it
I don't
doesn't
think
mean
I don't think it's a buff that's going to change the it's not. I don't think it's really overly
But
helping.
you know what
Terran.
is? You know what is? What's coming next, Mr. Black? Hellions! Blue flame upgrade bonus damage versus light has increased from +5 to +9.
Oh, you skipped orbital. Did you skip orbital commands?
Oh, did I? Oh, my apologies. I got too excited
Oh
there.
yeah,
Orbital
you can't,
command.
You can't.
Extra supplies call down now increase the HP of supply depots to 500. Immediately repair. Wait, does it repair it to full?
Oh yeah.
So not just adding whatever the bonus health of the but the whole thing gets
max HP.
You trying to
you want to bust into the Terran base and get rid of those 2 fucking supply depots that are always built just before it goes down. Full health. Get fucked. Huge buff.
Are these guys out their damn mind?
Massive buff.
Bro, okay, now hear me out.
Literally changes the whole fucking scope. You have Zerglings trying to go up a ramp, trying to get in. You wait for because you only can do so much DPS because there's only so many lings that can attack and surround when you're up at the ramp. You don't even have to.
Oh my god, it doesn't even it's not even something that you can out DPS. It's literally instant.
Bro. It's instant, which means you no longer have to pull. You no longer have to pull a shit ton of SCVs to repair it. So you can keep on mining, doing your shit, and just throw that bitch down. So not only do you save minerals, but on top of that, you also get more supply. So, you don't have to put down an extra supply depot when you normally would. It's a fucking meme, bro. It's an actual meme, bro.
Let me give them the answer to this. Increase the cost of doing it by, let's say, 25%. Okay? And when it drops, it only adds health to the base amount that's still remaining of the supply drop itself. So if I'm just throwing numbers out, let's say, because I can't remember the numbers, let's say a supply depot normally has 400, which is definitely not it, but let's just say it had 400 for the sake of just numbers, and the supply depot comes down, it adds 100. When that drops, and it's at 200 health left because they're attacking, they drop it.
Goes to 300.
Goes to 300. But it costs more to do.
It goes to 5. So what you do is you wait until just before it's going to die. And then you throw that bitch down. Basically just and it's instantaneous, man. And remember, you get more supply too. So fuck pulling. Isn't it funny too how you're watching this little GIF and all the SCVs, they don't even need to repair anymore. There's no urgency.
They're standing there.
They're just standing there. They're better off just going to mine minerals.
Here's the other way that I would be almost okay with this. Almost. One, again, has to cost more. Period. Cost more. Because it's doing more than it did before. The health can go back to full, but it's over time as if X number of SCVs are repairing it. What's the energy cost of a mule versus the energy cost of a supply drop?
50.
It's 50-50?
I'm pretty sure they're both identical. Somebody in chat can correct me if I'm wrong.
Let's make this 75. Because if you're dropping a mule and then make the health repair about the same as, let's say, if 2 mules were dropping to repair it. So that the health regen comes back at the speed of 2 mules repairing, but it costs 75 points instead of 50.
Yeah.
And they can be out DPS'd instead of instantly repairing, because what we're watching here is it's taking damage, and then it blinks to full. But if there was the ability to out DPS it as it gets back to full, so it has, let's say it heals 500 HP. So if over that healing time, if it starts at 100 and it would go to theoretically over heal it, the damage over time happens on a rate of that of the repair of 2 mules.
Allowing it to become a niche defensive tool against various defensive and counterattacks, dude. Suck a fat fucking cock. You want to know, you know what I think they should do, Adam? I don't think they should have done any of this. Why? Why are you just buffing the orbital command? Like, what? We don't even need to play semantics here. Just no. Why? You've done enough.
You don't, because in chat they're talking about right now, you know, the idea where you're always going to want to get a mule anyway. I don't think that's the case when it does something like this, or even if it did what I described. There will be, it would in that instance, as I described, be very, niche scenarios in which it would make sense to do. I do think it makes functional sense that if you're dropping more shit on top of the building, it should probably add to its health. Do I think it should repair it to full? No. Should it do it instantaneously? Fuck no. But I like the idea. Again, execution's insano. They're not increasing the cost. It instantly repairs. And they get more supply for it. It's completely fucking bonkers. So I would if I was doing it, it's 75 energy. It either only increases by the health that it would add anyway, so plus 100. So if it has 200 health remaining, it now has 300 health when it drops. And if it's not that, then it repairs to full, but at a rate of 2 mules repairing it. And it doesn't keep going until it's full health. It goes only for the 500 health that it would have recharged.
Yeah, then nobody will use it.
And then you can outpace it.
But nobody will use it. Because this isn't even a problem. This isn't even a problem in StarCraft. This is nuts. Anyway, Hellion.
Hellion! This is my favorite one. This is actually possibly my favorite change. From the standpoint of, holy shit. Blue Flame upgrade bonus damage versus Light increased from +5 to +9. It almost doubled, which means, if I'm not mistaken, workers are now 2-shot per 1 Hellion.
Yep. Shit's getting toasty.
1 Hellion can 2-shot multiple workers in a line. What?
And it's fun. And it's funny because, like, if the thing like shield battery still existed, right, where you could overcharge, I wouldn't really cry too much about this. But the fact that you don't have that anymore, I mean, dude, you better not let 2 Hellions get into your base under any circumstance. You're fucked.
Bro, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck about Hellbats? Ain't nobody give a fuck about Hellbats. Nobody fucking fuck a Hellbat. Fuck a Hellbat. You get +9 on a Hellion? Who's converting to Hellbat? Fuck a Hellbat. Nobody. You build 3 or 4 Hellions, you drop them, and you toast entire lines instantaneously.
Yeah, because as soon as you pull and you try and you just try and move your probes or you move your drones or whatever the case may be, you're fucked. They're all going to group up, dead, gone.
Fucked.
What can you do?
What do they say? As the Blue Flame upgrade is rarely utilized as a harassment tool. This change is added to allow Hellions with Blue Flame to 2-shot workers of all races. This might also help underused mech playstyles in all matchups and promote generally more active early and mid-game from the Terran players.
Who's on this council? Terran players. I am convinced these people don't play StarCraft. I'm convinced. Anyway, what's next?
Wait, there's more. The Liberator! Advanced ballistics effect changed from providing +2 range in defender mode to increasing the radius in defender mode from 5 to 6.25, which is a 56% area increase.
Bro, there's a meme where you see the Liberator just over a bunch of like one pylon, and you can't warp in anywhere. As soon as you warp in, you're dead. You can't do, like, they just circle over the whole fucking spot, and you just one shot, boom, dead, boom, dead, boom, dead. The whole thing's a joke. Don't you just love it when Liberators fly to the corner of the maps and then they siege up and they can still fuck your mineral line? Isn't
They've
that just
already
a great...
been battling that with the +2 range in Defender mode, where maps were getting broken by Liberator's ability to get into corners that were never intended to be abused that way in the first place. And now their solution is to increase the range or the radius by 56%? Smart Servo's upgrade is now also affecting Liberators. So not only is the range or the radius way bigger, it gets better. With Smart Servos, Liberator's siege time is decreased from 2.89 seconds to 2.12, which is a 26.6% reduction. And unsiege time is decreased from 1.46 to 1.13, a 23% reduction. That means that they are sieging in just over 2 seconds and unsieging in just over a single second. Holy fuck. Let's see what they have to say. Despite the previous advanced ballistics nerf, Liberator's maximum attack range is still an important limitation for the map-making process.
Oh, man.
As well as a frustrating mechanic to play against, so we decided to make it even more frustrating. This set of changes is aimed to test a different approach for the unit, which further decreases its maximum range in line with the Tempest changes, but allows it to cover more area on the sides and underneath the Liberator in Defender mode. Thors!
Where are the nerfs?
Explosive payload!
Where are they?
Splash damage mode.
Where are the nerfs?
Damage is increased from 6 plus 6 versus light to 8 plus 4 versus light. Explosive payload splash radius is increased from 0.5 with 100% splash damage to 0.5 with 100% damage, 0.75 with 75% damage, and 1.25 with 50% damage. So the further away they are, the less damage they take from the center of that splash zone. Explosive payload attack range is decreased from 10 to 7. Thank fuck, because holy shit, if they didn't at least reduce the range, what the shit?
Nothing on Ghosts. Wow.
I don't like this Thor change. I personally think is fine. Of all the Terran changes, I think this is fine. I think this makes them more viable in scenarios in which they were supposed to be viable originally and weren't. It's probably the only thing Terran has in this whole patch that makes literally a lick of fucking sense. Developer comments, Thor's explosive payload mode while being default for the unit is rarely utilized outside of TVZ against Mutalisk and is overall much weaker than its high-impact counterpart. This experimental set of changes is aimed to test a very different approach for the explosive payload, allowing Thor to deal much more damage to all types of units at the cost of major attack range reductions. I think that makes...
Good time to be a Terran player.
About the only
great time to
sense.
be a Terran player. Terran's up good, man. Terran's up real good.
Zerg changes. Now, this is where, I mean, again, when I first went through these, the Terran stuff was already kind of like, there was some wishy-washy bullshit in there. Then I got to Zerg and I went, oh, my lord. Queens, mineral cost increased from 150 to 175. You're thinking, hey, that sounds pretty good. And then you read the next line. Hatcheries, mineral cost decreased from 300 to 275. Spine crawlers, build time decreased from 36 seconds to 32. They were saying they wanted to reduce turtling, right? I'm just checking. Damage increased from 25 plus 5 versus armored to a flat 30. Spore crawlers. Damage increased from 15 to 20.
Rip! Oracles.
HP decreased from 400 to 300.
Oh my god, bro. But Jeff, think you can overcharge the Oracle now. Took up our energy. Oh my god.
Zerg playstyles against Terran and Protoss players on higher levels are mainly focused on defensive gameplay featuring mass queens. The efficiency of such defensive styles with strong execution means that Terran and Protoss players might also prefer to play passive, which doesn't lead to active early games. Instead of this set of changes, while not majorly influencing Zerg openings with a limited number of queens, is aimed to make mass queens playstyles less affordable. Spine crawler and spore crawler changes will help compensate for potentially smaller defensive impact from queens at the same time. Spore crawler HP was decreased to make sure spore crawler damage increased is not utilized for more efficient late game camping. So what's weird about this is that they've solved a legitimate, or trying to solve a legitimate problem in which mass queens with transfuse is a wall that is very challenging to break. And then they immediately replaced it with just a different version of the wall.
Yes. Here comes
if they had
meme.
just made queen changes and didn't touch spore crawlers or spine crawlers or anything, fine.
Here comes the fucking Catalina wine mixer.
Oh boy.
Here it is.
Oh boy. It's the fucking Catalina wine mixer. Move speed on creep with muscular augments upgrade decreased from 511 to 483, which is a 5.5%
That's the Hydralisk we're talking about here.
reduction. It's a Hydra. This is Hydralisk. New ability added, Dash. Dash is researched in the Hydralisk Den, requiring Hive. The upgrade costs 100 minerals and 100 gas, and takes 64 seconds. Dash is an active, non-targeted ability with a 10-second cooldown. Upon its use, Hydralisk receive 60% more move speed bonus for 0.71 seconds. So they reduced their overall speed on creep by 5.5% to give them a 60% move speed bonus for about a second to close gaps. So if I had to take a guess, this would almost completely nullify a blink stalker getting away. If they're on creep, specifically. I would imagine the stalkers blink, the Hydra charge if they're on creep, and they will catch up and kill the stalker.
We haven't even talked about disruptors, which you clearly need against Zerg when you get into the later games. I mean, bro, but don't worry, they up the radius by like 1% or 1 point or whatever the fuck it is. Man, these Hydras are gonna be like, yeah, ha, ha, ha. You're gonna go. They're gonna like you're gonna be able to use these in either a defensive or an aggressive manner. It's basically Blink for Hydra. It's crazy. Hydra, some of the most craziest DPS in the game, and you buy them in mass, and then you turn them into Lurker. Wow. What?
Let's hear the developer comments on this bad boy. The idea of this ability is to add more micromanagement potential for the key Zerg unit against mass area of effect damage spells like Psionic Storms and Purification Novas. Okay, so here's the deal. On creep, Hydra were already really fast. And getting out of storms and around storms or splitting them was plenty fast. If you wanted to do that, increase their speed by 5.5% and call it a day. And just have them split like Marines. We gonna give Marines stim charge? Where when they stim, oh wait, that's already a fucking thing. Increase the speed bonus. Does everyone need blink?
I mean, why can't you give us charge lots? Why can't you give this ability to charge lots? and let us go in and out. Let us charge out of a fight, too. Why don't you do that? This is nuts. This is nuts. And I'm only pissed because I'm a Protoss player and I just see all of the holes in which this build presents itself. I mean, even my oracles, when I play oracles, you're even going to be able to dash to catch up to an oracle to snipe them off. If you're Terran, you're up against BCs, you're up against Thor, you're up against virtually anything. You want to follow a medevac that's picking some shit up, want to get out? Hi! Dead.
I have the fix, Mr. Black. Only allow them to use it on their own creep.
I have a better fix.
Don't have it at
Delete
all.
dash altogether. Don't have it. What the fuck are you smoking?
If it's gonna stay, I would only allow it on creep. The fact that they have a GIF where they're using it off creep, the whole idea behind Zerg is that they're the strongest when they can swarm, and they swarm when they're on their own creep because they have a movement bonus.
You want to hit them with a storm?
Off creep, they're supposed to be vulnerable. That's the whole purpose. That's why the DPS on a Hydra is so big. They're glass cannons. They're supposed to be a positional unit. You're not supposed to be able to just mass them and walk them across open ground with no fucking creep and be able to have a get out of jail free card.
Bruh. And also, the animation looks like ass, by the way.
Yeah, it's not great.
Anyway.
Infestors. Microbial Shroud is now sticking to units, providing them with its effect for 3.6 seconds while off the Shroud. Despite being very strong on paper, Microbial Shroud is not widely used in Zerg vs Protoss late game, mostly due to units under Shroud being vulnerable to area of effect damage spells, with Shroud sticking to the units for 3.6 seconds outside of the actual Shroud area. Zerg players are now able to micro more freely while still enjoying the benefits of the infest. Okay, so we've given Hydra dash, and now the Shroud follows them, giving them even more survivability off creep. Okay. Ultralisks. While moving, Ultralisk is now able to push allied units out of the way. So if you're trying to go up a ramp...
Stormgate did it first.
If you're going up a ramp, get out of the way, Ultralisk is going up. Honestly, I think this is fine.
This is good. I mean, this is a good change. A thing regardless. I mean, this is a buff, but I mean, I think it's a buff that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
They're a massive
Ultralisks are a huge unit. Even when you're not talking about choke points, trying to arrange the Zerg army to be having like Ultralisk always in the front is a bit silly. I like this change. I think it's good.
Why didn't they do this for Archons? Oh, that's right. I know.
It's Protoss. So any unit that's considered massive should have that ability is basically the idea.
It's just ultras.
Broodlords! Oh, this is actually you had your favorite. This is my favorite.
Oh god.
Broodlords. Broodling HP is increased from 20 to 30. They didn't nerf them. They buffed them. Yeah, Broodling weapon cooldown decreased from 0.57 to 0.46. And what's worse is apparently there was a bug that was making them weaker, and it's fixed. Fixed the bug which prevented Broodlords from dealing full damage while shooting from maximum distance.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Fun patch, Adam.
Listen, I already gave you guys the blueprint. All right? They leave the fucking area, the broodlings die. I gave you the fucking blueprint. and you're out here buffing them. Here's the problem with Broodlords, is that while they are not widely used right now, it's not necessarily because they're particularly weak. It's just because there are other options that people feel or find more efficient. The Broodlord buffing or buffing the Broodlord is a really delicate dial, because you can touch that dial, you can sneeze on it, and the Broodlords go from nobody's using them to it's the only unit in every fucking game that Zerg plays, and it's demolishing everyone. You know how I know that? We've already seen it. Broodlords were literally an entire meta for like the fucking longest goddamn time. And then they changed them, and they became a meta again in a different way, and now here we are, and I guess they're looking to make the meta again.
Yeah, I mean, listen, all I can do is just play the patch. You know, on face value, this is painful. Who knows? Might play differently. I'm sure that there are probably some strategies in which I have not thought about on the fly that are probably unique and probably make the game experience a little bit different, which can be fun. Something that StarCraft needs is a mix-up. But it's hard for me to take my biasness out of it as a Protoss player, to see the race get just reamed on so badly in comparison to the other two races, when this race was already suffering on the highest scale, like in terms of gameplay, and we're talking professional, and then sort of ex-pros like myself, or people that have, you know, high enough MMR where you're against sweaties. Listen, I'm just grateful that I cast the game primarily. I don't play it full time. Well, I can say pretty much definitively that if I ever played StarCraft on a full-time basis again with this type of patch, I would probably switch races. It would be time. It would be time.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of things, I suppose, in this patch that you could look at, and somebody might be able to make arguments for certain things. The Protoss shit is like nearly an across-the-board nerf with no real help given, and then almost, you know, most of what's done for the other two races specifically makes them stronger against Protoss on top of that. So it's a really weird... It seems cross-purpose with what their goals were that they outlined in the beginning. Man. I'm very interested to see how the test goes and see what changes, if anything, before they press the go live button.
Yep.
If we're lucky, maybe this is one of those situations where they've dialed everything super far up so that in the PTR they can figure it out and dial it back. But there are just some things in here that, like, I just can't even fathom. It's just like a couple of these make absolutely no sense no matter how much I try to, like, comprehend what they're really trying to get at. So we'll wait and see, I guess. We'll wait and see how it goes. There you go, Mr. Black. It's time to sell out real quick. Tell the folks at home.
Patreon.com/lagtv. Head on over there. If you guys want to support the podcast directly, or just Adam and I as creators, you can head on over there, patreon.com/lagtv. Throw some money at the screen. Or you can support us through our sponsor, NordVPN. You can go check them out at nordvpn.com/OTT. Link will be in the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube. Stay safe, stay anonymous on the internet. Watch different regions of Netflix and other streaming services at the click of a button. You can use it on your smartphone, Android, iOS. You can use it on your PC, your Mac, virtually any device, up to 10 simultaneous devices. So you only need one per household. A 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like, the services for any reason, get your money back within 30 days. And guys, I use mine to have anonymity on the internet. Whether I'm traveling, I don't want people to be, tracking what I'm doing on the internet. I want to be safe, as safe as humanly possible. And I can do that through NordVPN. I use mine. on basically 5 days a week. I'm using my VPN, whether that's on my phone, whether that's on my laptop, of some capacity, or on my PC, or even on my Mac. So go and check them out. Get yourself a virtual private network, and think of NordVPN when you think of VPN, and make sure to use that. It's a great way to support us on top of the sponsor and yourself all at once, and it's less than a cup of coffee a month. Very affordable, and they've got a huge deal going on right now, so go and check them out. Shoutouts to Nord.
And now it's time for
Movies and TV.
Oh shit, I forgot. One sec. Quick news bits. None of this requires your input really, unless you have something to say about this. So before movies and TV, the new analog pocket maker is back with a new console release, this time for the N64. So it's full FPGA build, meaning it's going to play N64 games natively without software emulation, and should also be completely region free. It also takes regular N64 controllers, or you can use their Bluetooth ones as well as you want. It offers CRT style outputs in 4K to recreate as close to the original visual look as you could hope for, but built for modern TVs. It's $249 US. And I already checked. The white ones are sold out already. The black ones are still available. But they're probably also going to sell out pretty quick. They typically tend to do so. Sean Murray and team have done it again. Another free No Man's Sky content dropped happened this week called The Curse, just in time for Halloween. New ships, new quest lines, more everything. You know the fucking rules. They just go out there and make enormous fucking content drops, and everyone fucking gets it for free, and then we all ask them what the fuck, or where's the money coming from? Sean, give us the new game already, what's happening? And then we go on to the next one, and 2 months later, another content drop. Remember that Kickstarter from the Days Gone dev back from the grave? They canned that Kickstarter only after, like, I don't know, 3 weeks, because they only made $3,000, and immediately announced that they're pivoting to mobile games to help fund a horror-style prop hunt game instead, which they are evaluating whether or not they will use Kickstarter or other crowdfunding for in the future. Good luck to you guys. You're a bunch of scammers. Go fuck yourselves. Nobody cares. Ubisoft. The hits just keep on coming, this time in the form of over 700 employees from their France branch walking out on a multi-day strike in dispute over work-from-home policy that they just tried to change recently, and general compensation, which has apparently not been great, which would not be shocking given the fact that Ubisoft has been in utter fucking shambles. They probably can't afford to give anyone pay anymore. They're literally burning as we speak. And there's your quick news, Mr. Black. Movies and TV. I have nothing for movies and TV, but I had a music-related thing. So before we do that, I will have to tell you that once again, I have yet to finish Love is Blind.
Damn.
M has been, the reason is because M has been doing this course thing. Most nights she's not got time to watch anything. She's on the laptop doing this coursework, and so when she's finally done this coursework, we'll get back to watching that. I don't know if that's going to be tonight, but it should be soon. I think she's almost done. But yeah, that's why we haven't got around to watch it. So other than that, has there been anything that has happened that you know of?
I have not watched anything.
Beautiful.
Not a thing.
Not necessarily movies and TV news, but this is, like I said, music related. Programmers Damian Rail and Noah Rubin programmatically generated every possible melody in MIDI, copied them to a hard drive so they could be copyrighted, and then released all of them on a Creative Commons Zero license to help stop many artists from being sued for all these similar sounding melody lawsuits that have been going on. The pair believes that the copyright system is broken, and that's why they wanted to help artists avoid these kind of quagmires. They generated every 8-note and 12-note combination. The algorithm that they designed generated about 300,000 melodies per second. As great of an idea as this is, from a technical perspective, it should hold up in court if copyright laws are adhered to, as they are currently. But this has yet to be tested in court. But theoretically, as far as copyright is concerned, it's a whole thing about does it exist and is it copyrighted? And if not, then there's no grounds. And so these guys went out and fucking generated every melody imaginable and then made them all Creative Commons 0, which means you don't need attribution. You can just simply use those melodies. So theoretically it should work, but the music industry is full of very wealthy, old, rich people.
It won't.
And it will probably not, even though legally it should, they will find a way to circumvent the law to line their pockets further.
For sure.
But I applaud the effort. Kind of cool that they came up with the idea and did it. Godspeed. And that's all I've got for movies and TV, which means it's time to move on to
tech support.
Patreon.com/LikeTV is the place to go if you want to financially support the podcast. And of course, on the side, perhaps a little bit of StarCraft when you're not playing some of our games that we're pushing out to you guys for sponsors. For $5 or more a month, you get a couple of perks. Chiefly, you are able to ask us questions on a post that I put up before the podcast called Tech Support. You ask us questions in the comment section there. We give you answers in the time that we have. Let's see here. Edgar asks, how much cash for an AI versus AI StarCraft cast? I mean, maybe we could do that for a meme at some point. Maybe we'll make it a goal for one of our future sponsorship runs to do like a short little thing, because we've already done AI craft pretty heavily. It's not like the AI has dramatically changed since we've last done it. But certainly, I know people have enjoyed us bringing back some of our other old content, so we could probably just do that. Just say, hey, if we hit this benchmark, which you guys have hit every benchmark ever laid out so far, then maybe we'll bring back a little short series of AI craft. Wait, Josh. Oh, this is a meme, but all right. Marky Mark asks, Tim Houston heard your podcast last week and agrees. Canada sucks nowadays. It's time that Nova Scotia leaves Canada and joins another nation, and there's a referendum.
Tim Houston heard your podcast.
Which option do you choose? A, Nova Scotia joins the US. B, Nova Scotia joins Greenland/Denmark. Or C, Nova Scotia becomes an independent country.
You know what, man? The older I get, the more I'm identifying with the Quebecers. Where, you know, the block is starting to speak to me.
That's scary.
The block is starting to speak to me a little bit. No, man, I you know, Nova Scotia's Canadian. It's always going to be Canadian. It's just, you know, it is
down
what it
bad
is.
in 4K at the moment.
I wish Tim Houston heard the podcast.
It's all right. Timmy's going to probably have a provincial election of his own here, despite the fact that he's only been in for like a short period of time. Yep. That's like the Nova Scotia way, is like when people are just always upset, they never give any government any time to do anything. We just end up having an election every fucking year, like it's a Christmas vacation like event. That's kind of what we seem to be leaning towards now. David asks, have you guys dabbled in your own car detailing, or is it something that you pay a pro to take care of? Jeff, did you do any car detailing stuff to protect your new baby, the Porsche?
I mean, I got my car fully PPF'd 100% and it's ceramic coated. So, I mean, it's protected. But when it comes to detailing, like, I'm going to get it detailed next week. I'm not going to do it. And then I'll put it away for the season. And I typically only detail my car like once a year. That's it. And the rest I'll just like kind of wash. I'm not one of those dudes that like obsess over just an immaculate, sparkly, you know, it's too much time and too much effort. If I obsessed of that sort of shit, I'd be spending way too many hours a week, like 15, 20 hours a week, just obsessing.
You're not retired
the interior, no, exactly. The interior is always very clean, but the exterior, like if I were to go right now and just like do that on my rim, I'm gonna get black on my fingers. So, yeah, no, I don't. That's not one thing I obsess over.
Yeah, I mean, I've done my own cars many times over the years, but I've gotten in the habit now where, especially with the RAV, it's even for somebody my height, it's actually just a pain in the ass to wash the top of it and wax the top of it, gotta be honest. So what I've gotten in the habit of is when I get my tires changed and my undercoat updated, especially in the wintertime, I just have them send it over to the shop and they do a base level wash, wax, vacuum the inside.
Yeah.
done for the season. That's about it. And so it just means that it's all done at once. Like the car's already gone for a full day anyway, so I just tell them like keep it for another couple hours and wash it. But you know, yeah, I'm not out there detailing my 2016 RAV4. It's not really a high priority on my list. Jubinator asks, do you guys have any short-term or long-term plans / goals for the Lag TV community and channel? I mean, continue doing what we're doing right now for as long as it seems viable. Really, that's it. You know, the community is engaged right now. They're locked in. We are upticking. We're growing slowly, albeit we are growing. It's happening. We're getting some decent reach outside of our own community, and bringing back people that have been away for quite some time. But you guys have been very good. You've been liking videos. You've been commenting. You've been showing up. And as long as you're doing that, I mean, we can keep doing it as long as we're not burnt out on ourselves. We're juggling the line of doing enough content to keep the growth going and just not burn out. Because our last trick, when we were doing StarCraft before, we were doing too much StarCraft and we burned out and it was just unsustainable. But we've got it to a reasonable science now where we can sit down, do it on a basically weekly basis, and it functionally gets you guys lots of great content that you can watch at work on your lunch break or whatever else, and just enjoy it that way. So right now, I mean, that's it. Like we haven't sat down and said we're gonna get to fucking blah 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 blah. We're already doing everything feasible on a channel made for StarCraft that is possible to grow a channel making StarCraft content. So it either continues or it doesn't. And then whatever happens from there, really. But
yeah,
we're just happy you guys are.
Because we don't know what Stormgate's going to do yet. It's still early, and they got this new Mayhem shit coming out, which is basically a MOBA. So we'll see what happens with that. It's a 3v3 mode. In fact, I gotta join the invite and try it out. But I mean, we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? Right now, we're in a good lane right now.
Yes,
we're in a good
right
lane.
Now.
So, you know, we're putting out a good amount of content. We got an editor, we got a thumbnail person. We're gonna keep riding that wave, and community supporting it. I mean, we're in a good place right now. So we're just gonna keep going, see what happens.
Josh. Okay. Josh asks, what element would you want to have from Avatar: The Last Airbender? If you were controlling one of the elements, which element are you going for? Wind?
I'm going wind.
Fire? Water? Wind?
I feel like with wind, you can fly and shit, right? Because you can manipulate.
Oh, yeah.
Air.
For sure.
You know? So I'm going to go with that.
I'm going, going water, I think, because you can't fly. You can't fly necessarily, but you could put water. You could put ice out in front of yourself and fucking slide just about damn near anywhere you wanted to. And if you wanted to cross any body of water, you could just do that just as easy as you could fly. So probably that. For that purpose, and then also if I decide to go like full Palpatine, waterbenders could technically blood bend and pull the blood out of your body because your blood is mostly water. Fuck them up.
Okay.
Fuck them up. It's the way to go. Hold on, I gotta read some of these ahead. Gonna pass on that one, Samurai. Mad Kiwi, favorite chicken wing sauce?
Medium.
Chicken wings, medium?
I'm just a medium. Just give me some medium hot sauce, like or like medium,
Yeah.
hot wing sauce.
Medium heat. Yeah.
Medium heat. I'm good. I don't need it fucking crazy hot, but I do need some spice. And I find like a lot of the like barbecues or like Cajun or like other types of stuff, I find the taste gets old after a while. The medium, I
True.
can just eat them bitches. The specialty sauces, they're good to have in moderation.
Yep.
Have 3 or 5 of them, be done with it. It's kind of like eating a certain type of bag of chips, like an obscure type of flavor. It's like you only can really eat, for me, I only can really eat so much of those, but then I always kind of gravitate towards, salt and vinegar, and I can just eat a fuck ton of those. You know what I mean? But like sour cream and bacon, delicious as fuck, but I'm only going to eat like
a little bit,
like a small bag of it. But you give me salt and vinegar, I'm gonna fucking polish the whole bag. I'm kind of the same way with my chicken wings.
Yeah, medium. It depends on the place, because sometimes some places medium is like fucking mild, like there's nothing to it. I do want something.
Yeah.
So depending on the place, it's either medium or spicy, or like hot. The first level of hot, not the I need to sign a waiver before I eat it.
That. Yeah.
And then my go-to like secondary flavor is like Thai chili, like the sweet Thai chili sauce is my secondary. Do you dip, or are you just straight wing?
Oh, I'm straight wing.
I'm a straight wing as well.
Bitch.
Yeah.
And hey, I got to be honest, I prefer flats over drums. I'm gonna keep it.
Me too. When it comes to wings, I do.
When it comes to wings.
Too. Yeah.
Yes.
There's only a couple times it's an exception, and one time it's an exception. And in some restaurants, the reason why I prefer them is that for whatever reason, the flats on average somehow have less dried out meat than the fucking drums. But some places, when you get drums, they're like a fucking drum. You're getting a lot of shit on there. But in general, if I could just get flats and just get in and just pull that bitch right out.
Yes.
It's the show.
Yes.
Last one, Zonix. Hollywood has given Light TV $1 billion budget to direct a movie. What are you two making? What movie are we making for $1 billion? $1
billion?
$1 billion. We can't even afford Star Citizen for $1 billion. How are we going to make a movie?
For $1 billion. Wow. I'm going Star Wars.
I was gonna say,
I'm going Knights of the Old Republic.
There you go. We said we're on the same page.
That's what I'm doing. Dark, gritty, Game of Thrones like with lightsabers.
Yes.
And no Luke Skywalkers, no fucking Chewbacca's or Han Solos, just a whole new slew of characters.
Yes.
And it's just gritty as fuck, meant for adults, not kids. I'm not interested in selling toys.
No.
I just want to go out there and just create an amazing fucking story, unpredictable, crazy battles, medieval style. Give me all of that. I'm there for it. Give me that. That's like a wet dream Star Wars movie. I'm using the whole billion. The whole Billy.
Who you casting? And who's directing?
Director? Oh. Director? Oh, no. I'm going Christopher Nolan.
Agreed.
Starring? Fuck. Bruh. That's tough. That is tough. Dude, I don't know. I think I'm going with unknowns, bro.
Yeah,
like,
I think Mostly unknowns.
I think I'm going mostly unknowns. Like, we're talking Game of Thrones style, where you go out to like fucking the UK, Britain, Ireland, somewhere, and you're bringing on classically trained talent that is not known, that got a fucking chip on their shoulder, that want to become stars, but are not Hollywood. I'm there. And if I had to pick one person that's like known,
give me one person that's going to represent the dark side, and one like big person for the light side, and then everyone else is unknowns. Can I say who my dark side character is or person is?
Yeah.
Michael Shannon.
Oh, fuck, that's a good one. That's a real good one.
I got to think about the good one though.
That's a
but
really
Michael
good
Shannon.
one.
Michael Shannon would be fire.
Ooh. I'm going with what's his name? I'm going with, for the dark side, I'm going with Bill Skarsgård. I'm going Skarsgård.
It's a good choice.
Yup. Light side? Oh. Oh boy.
Well, I'm thinking. I got a couple of ideas, but I'm trying to come up with something. See if I get anything better.
Oh, that's a tough one. Man, I don't even want to say him. I hate to say it. I fucking hate to say it, man. But
you know who I'm
gonna
saying?
go.
You don't even know who I'm gonna say, bro. You don't even fucking know. You don't even know who I'm gonna say.
Who are you saying?
God, nothing. I don't even know if you're gonna follow me on this one. All right, because you're probably thinking if I say this, it's got to be like somebody like Jedi related or something, but not necessarily.
Okay.
More in a political role, because we're saying game. This is Old Republic, so there's a lot. This is okay.
Yes.
Helen Mirren.
Wow. I can see it.
Politician Helen Mirren for the good side. And then Michael Shannon fucking some shit up on the dark side. Ain't nobody do angry better than Michael Shannon.
I'm going Skarsgård as one of the main baddies. So one of the Sith type baddies. And on the good side, because it's gotta have a Hollywood appeal to it, I'm going Timothée Chalamet. I can see him being in it.
Listen,
and
listen. Part of me wanted to say that, but I was like, but he's already in Dune.
I know he is. That's why I didn't want to say it, but I'm still gonna say it because it's the guy that came to my mind. He can play in the series for a long time. He's got. I saw chops in him in Dune 2 that I didn't think he possessed. He's got a pretty boy look, but also it's not too pretty boy, and it can fit that style. He can flirt with the dark. I don't know, and he's young. That's why I'm going with it. If you gave me more time, I'd probably think of somebody different. I really would. But he's the first Hollywood-ish. Not ish, but he's the first Hollywood actor that came to my mind that isn't fucking Chris Pratt or any of these other. Like, I don't want Leonardo. And remember, this is Christopher Nolan, right?
Yes.
So I need.
It's got to be a certain actor.
It's got to be a certain type of actor. This isn't Quentin Tarantino's Star Wars, right? It's Christopher Nolan. Gonna go with it. That's where I'm at.
Surian McKellen.
Also fantastic.
I mean, we
Dude,
already...
there's people in Game of Thrones that I would cast. Even the guy who played Kingslayer.
Yeah.
Bro.
I could see him being a rogue type.
I could see. Yes. I think he'd be fine in that type of era of Star Wars. I'm there for it.
Liam Neeson as a Force ghost, even though he hasn't lived yet.
No, stay away. Liam, stay away. The Force is not with you. No. Run. Okay? Nobody asked for that.
So here's the thing. I will hold you to this, though. Canonically, Revan, the big baddie in the Old Republic, is female. Who plays Revan? Canonically, it's a female. Anyone other than Scarlett Johansson?
No, not Scarlett Johansson, please. For the love of everything that's holy and sacred. Female.
Yep.
Have to be young?
I believe canonically Revan is
middle-aged,
not like old. Let's say
like
between
30s,
40s, in that pocket.
Shit. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's actors that come to mind, but for the wrong reasons. And I feel like I feel like it doesn't necessarily have to be a Hollywood star again.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to.
I would almost be trying to go for an unknown.
Yeah,
like maybe somebody that is known, but like not in North American Hollywood standards. Somebody that's got a good pedigree, maybe have been in some like critically acclaimed things, but like you didn't really want to see them. You didn't know you wanted to see them. Because, you know, it's hard for me to think of actresses that aren't your standard, you know, big actresses.
Yeah, true.
Like, I really don't want a whole bunch of A-list actors in this movie. Because it's just, you know, I want A-list actors to be born through this movie, not the other way around. So I'm still going unknown. I'm still going unknown because I think I've got two actors there. Timothy Chalamet, who's going to be your baby face, and then you've got Skarsgård, who can blend into virtually anything, and like he's not even really an A-list actor, but he's like he is, but he isn't. So you know you can get away with that. Like it's going to give the movie some of that oomph. But like all of the main supporting actors and even some of the main ones are going to be unknowns, bro. I'm going the Game of Thrones route, man. I'm going the Game of Thrones route.
I like it. Oh, apparently I messed this up. It's the main baddie in Knights of the Republic 2 is canonically female, and Revan is canonically male.
Okay, well.
Sorry, it's been a hot minute.
That would be fire, though. Knights of the Old Republic, Christopher Nolan.
Oh my god, dude.
$1 billion budget.
I wouldn't even be ready for that. I don't think I'm ready.
You know the shit's filmed in fucking IMAX. The whole thing.
Disney ain't ready for that either.
No, Disney ain't ready.
Disney don't deserve it. If we're being 100% honest about this situation,
no, they don't.
They don't even deserve that.
No, they don't. And Christopher Nolan right now is his next movie's coming out in 2026, and it's going to be a vampire film, and it's in the 20s, and it's Matt Damon,
okay,
and Peter Parker, fucking what's his face?
There's several of those.
The new one. The one that's dating
Tom Holland?
Tom Holland. Yeah. Yeah.
Tom looks like he comes from the 20s, so that's a good choice.
Yeah. So it's a 1920s vampire film. Coming out in 2026. That's his next thing.
That's fucking wild, but you know what's Chris? I'm not even gonna question it.
You know what? I'm low key kind of happy he's getting away from the sci-fi epics or the documentary or the autobiography type shit. Let me see what you can do here. Let's see what you can do.
That's true. But you know what we should do? We should see how much StarCraft we can cast before I have to go pick up my wife.
Yeah,
so let's get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for hanging out. It's another Technical Alpha podcast in the books. Hope you enjoyed yourself. We will see you guys next week. We're going to head out and cast you guys some StarCraft. And so until we see you guys next week. Although, wait a minute. We may or may not. That's Halloween, which means we probably won't, because Mr. Black will be out with his son, and I will be probably running back and forth to the door, as many kitties will be out looking for ways in which to increase their body sugar.
It's that. I mean, I'd rather just record StarCraft because I'll have time to do that, but I will not have time to do both.
No, we won't have time to do both.
Record StarCraft at in the afternoon and then be gone for dinner because I'm going to be MIA.
That's the more likely scenario. So we'll shoot for StarCraft recording, but probably no podcast for next Thursday. So we will see you on the next podcast regardless. And until then, stay safe out there. Have a good one and peace.
Hey.